increase in the population size of Abelterium and the consequent rise in the number of customers, or perhaps with the construction of a new wing to allow for the separation of sexes.
A nordeste das termas foi identificado uma casa romana de grandes dimensões e de grande fausto, pertencente a uma figura ilustre de Abelterium, uma pessoa de grande cultura e de gosto requintado, a julgar pelo mosaico figurativo encontrado no triclínio.
The archaeological excavation of the Roman house uncovered the peristyle, the triclinium, cubicula, and a performance room. The triclinium, that is, the dining room of the wealthier classes, was usually furnished with a table surrounded by 3 couches, on which the owner and his guests reclined comfortably and enjoyed sumptuous banquets. This room was paved with a polychrome mosaic with geometric and figurative motifs. It included a figurative medallion at the center, with a representation of the penultimate scene of Book 12 of Virgil's Aeneid. At present, this house has been named House of the Medusa, since this mythological figure is depicted in the mosaic from the triclinium, more precisely on the shield held by Aeneas. The Trojan prince Aeneas is represented as victorious and imposing, holding a spear and a shield that bears a depiction of the head of the terrible Medusa, both weapons made by Vulcan at the request of Aeneas's mother, Venus. 3 Perugian soldiers armed with spears and shields stand behind Aeneas, while 3 likewise armed Rutulian soldiers are depicted on the opposite side. Since the confrontation between these 2 factions takes place at the beach at Ostia, near the mouth of the Tiber River, these 2 bodies of water are represented in this mosaic in the form of deities. Tiberinus, the god of the Tiber River, is depicted leaning to the left, with his hand resting on an overturned pitcher from which the river's waters pour out, flowing towards the sea. The god Oceanus is depicted facing him, receiving the waters of the Tiber. Turnus, the young king of the Rutulians, who had thrown a spear at Aeneas while engaging in combat with him, clipping off the plume on the crest of his helmet, kneels before Aeneas, prostrate and begging for his life to be spared, or at least for the return of his lifeless body to his kinsman. Hesitation regarding the fate of the Rutulian king ends when Aeneas notices at his feet the weapons of the son of King Evander, the young and brave Pallas, who had been brutally murdered by Turnus. The condemnation and punishment of Turnus's cruelty lead Aeneas to plunge a sword deep into his chest. The peristyle was a porticoed courtyard that allowed natural light to shine through and ventilation into the house. In the peristyle there was an interior garden embellished with numerous plants, a fountain and several sculptures. The cubicula, that is the bedrooms, were arranged around the peristyle and could be reached through the side corridors. The pavements in these rooms ranged from opus signium, a mortar made of hydraulic lime, sand and crushed brick, to polychrome mosaics with geometric motifs, although some floors may also have been made of wood. Doors facing the garden allowed the circulation of air and brought natural light into the cubicula. The house also possessed a performance room paved with opus signium, with a fountain at the center and an apse opposite the entrance.
No período que medeia entre a primeira metade do século VI e a primeira metade do século VII, e já numa fase de total abandono e ruína das termas, uma das piscinas do Frigidário foi utilizada como necrópole.
The careful layout and the architectural setting of the graves strongly suggest that these were graves of the privileged class, found either inside or adjacent to a basilica or funerary oratorium. The graves were sealed with lids made from schist slabs, and Roman building materials were reused in their construction, namely fragments of opus signium, granite ashlar, and a column drum.
A ponte romana de Vila Formosa está classificada como Monumento Nacional desde 1910. Situa sob a Ribeira de Seda e constitui um excepcional exemplar de arquitetura civil alto-imperial. Fazia parte da via romana que passava por Abeltério e que ligava ao Licipo, Lisboa, à capital da província romana da Lusitânia, Augusta Emérita.
The Roman bridge of Villa Formosa is characterized by rectangular piers, decorated with mouldings that have classical characteristics, which support 6 arches of identical span, overlain by a horizontal profile deck measuring over 100 meters long and about 7 meters wide. In the spandrels between each arch, there are 5 smaller arch-shaped openings that allow the release of excess water during floods. Below the parapet, the bridge has a cornice along its entire length, a decorative element which, on the upstream side, is interspersed with gargoyles. Given the regularity of the masonry in opus quadratum and the forfex marks which can be seen throughout the entire monument, the Roman bridge of Villa Formosa may be considered an excellent example of Roman civil architecture.
A Vila Romana da Quinta do Peão localiza-se na herdade da Quinta do Peão e está implantada no meio de um olival centenário, numa plataforma artificial sobranceira uma linha de água.
Large and luxurious, the Villa of Peão fits in with the typology for large imperial villae and is therefore of utmost importance for the understanding of the Roman presence in this region. The Roman villa would have been linked by a secondary road to the road that passed through Abelterium, which being in the vicinity suggests an association with this place. This villa would have been inhabited by local magistrates holding public office or individuals of high economic and social status from Abelterium. Slaves, freedmen, anonymous citizens, priests and aristocrats all roamed the streets of Abelterium, the Forum, the temples and tabernae. They were avid users of the baths and lived in insulae and luxury houses such as the House of the Medusa. They consumed wine and garum from Hispania and imported fine wares from other provinces of the empire. When misfortune struck, they paid tribute to their loved ones and their family, mentioning their social and economic status, and honored their memory at the time of death. These are excerpts from the daily life of the population of Abelterium, recovered through the practice of archaeology.